Some truths arrive like a nudge in the ribs, quiet and precise. This one makes sense until the moment you need it, and maybe that moment is now. If you're listening, you're already ready to meet what you've been avoiding. You're not here to be saved by certainty. You're here to learn how a question can carry you past your own guardrails. Socrates did not promise answers the way you expect. He promised a way of listening so sharp that beliefs begin to loosen, like vines in a ceiling crack letting in light. He knew that irony, far from being a weapon, can be a doorway. If you're here, something in you is already shifting, a tremor beneath the surface asking, what if my truth needs a listening that doesn't end in a verdict? In that spirit, I'm here as a companion who won't tell you what to do. I'll help you notice what is already happening inside you. The subtle rearrangements your mind makes when it encounters a difficult question. The goal isn't victory or clarity in a single moment. The aim is continuity, a conversation you can keep returning to, a curiosity that follows you like a soft shadow through the day. I invite you to breathe with me. Inhale slowly, exhale with a gentle pause. This is not the breath of resignation, but of attention. When you pause, you give your own mind permission to loosen its grip on the easy story and listen for what is trying to emerge instead. Irony often looks like a smile that knows you better than you know yourself. It doesn't mock you. It reveals where you are hiding. You might think you know your beliefs, but Socrates would ask, what are the roots of that belief? What experiences are you carrying that keep it respectable, tidy, untestable? The irony is not to mock your certainty, but to invite you to test its edges, to press at the boundary where fear and pride meet. If you want to feel the iron in Socratic irony, imagine a small drill of honesty boring into your most cherished claim. Where does your confidence rest when someone questions it with a single, quiet inquiry? Do you bend, or do you stand and re-examine? These are not traps, but invitations to inquire with gentleness. The difference between a debate and a dialogic passage is intention. Is the aim to prove you are right, or to discover what is true for you? Beyond the theater of your ego, a soft chime marks the moment when a familiar fortress begins to crack. The crack is not defeat. It is the opening of space inside you where alternatives can live. In that space, you begin to see that the problem you fear may not be a monster outside you, but a configuration inside you that needs reshaping. Maieutic phase follows the rhythm of a patient shepherd who never pushes the flock, but offers just enough light to notice the path. Socrates used questions like gentle air, flowing around the shoulders of your certainty until it loosens its grip. He did not demand you discard your whole self in an instant. He invited you to examine the scaffolding you've used to hold up your world. What if the problem isn't the person you're disputing with, or the choice you're making, but the part of yourself you've learned to abandon when your pride grows numb? What if your longing for coherence is a signal that your inner landscape is asking for a new texture, a more forgiving map of what matters? Consider for a moment the way identity forms around a single act of courage or a single fear you refuse to name. What if naming it aloud changes its color, makes it less haunted, more usable? A quiet page turning signals a shift, as if a chapter you've carried for years is suddenly ready to be closed with care. The Socratic method isn't about winning a chess match with life. It's about discovering whether your board is complete, whether you're seeing all the pieces clearly, or only the ones you want to protect. Let me offer a reframing, not a prescription. Perhaps the struggle you're in is less about escaping a problem and more about learning anew. Language for your own experience. In the language of psychology, we might call this individuation, the journey toward a more integrated self. In the language of philosophy, a more mature question replaces the old certainty, and with that replacement, a new way of living appears. The goal isn't to erase your past, but to allow it to stand beside your present with a more accurate sense of proportion. A gentle wind sweeps through the mind's alleys, reminding you that nothing is fixed but the moment in which you notice it. If you're listening, You're already on the cusp of a shift Camus might call a revolt against the absurd. A choosing of meaning even when a verdict feels out of reach. If what is trusted, meaning isn't a destination but a practice of pain, how you stay open to the next question, even when the last one unsettled you. Now we arrive at a gentler insight, not a grand proclamation, but a quiet invitation. The best form of rhetoric is not the forceful claim, but the clarity of pause. When you pause, you reset the conditions under which your thoughts arise. You notice the difference between what you want to defend and what you're capable of understanding. This is not cynicism, it is precision in living. What would change if you treated every belief you hold as a hypothesis, tested in the laboratory of your own life? What would change if you allowed your sense of self to be challenged by the very questions you resist? The Stoics would call this training, this deliberate friction with your own mind. Jung would say you face the shadow not to annihilate it, but to reconcile parts you have kept in the basement of your psyche. The composer of your inner music is not a tyrant, but a conductor inviting you to hear more of the orchestra. Another small bell, another moment of resonance. You don't have to end this crisis with certainty. You may simply end it with a more spacious sense of what you don't know yet. The beauty of Socrates' irony is that it leaves you with more questions than answers. A garden that continues to sprout new questions after the harvest. Resonant closing is not a flourish, but an invitation to remain in dialogue with yourself. If you feel a tremor of possibility tonight, treat it as a sign that your inner city is waking up, not a signal that you failed. The path of philosophy is not a rescue mission, but a companionable walk through a place you've always known was inside you, just not in this precise weather. So I'll leave you with a question that does not demand an immediate decision. What question would you entrust with your next step? And who would you become if you stopped needing to be right, even for a moment, and simply chose to listen more honestly to what your life is asking you to become? The answer isn't fixed, and that's exactly the point. The best Socrates teaches through paradox. Clarity grows where certainty dissolves, and the self expands when the room for doubt is welcomed. Listen to your own pulse as it changes tempo, as if your heartbeat is agreeing to stay with the work a little longer. You are not late to your own awakening. You are discovering the pace at which you can endure truth without fear. If you carry one fragment tonight, let it be this. Irony is a gentle instrument that asks you to listen more carefully, not to abandon yourself, but to meet yourself with a kinder, more exact gaze. And with that gaze, you may find that you're already home, just not in the place you expected. What if the smartest takeaway from the best Socrates is not a single answer, but a skill? The ability to ask a question in a way that makes a door appear where you once saw a wall? If you can hold that image, you have a map not to escape, but to walk through the moment you're in, to arrive somewhere you did not know you could reach. If you're listening, the door you've opened isn't a doorway to certainty, but a wider corridor. It asks you to move closer to the edge of your beliefs, not to leap, but to lean. That is Socrates' irony, not to crush you with doubt, but to loosen the joints where fear grips. What would it look like to test this belief with curiosity instead of contempt? Maieutic practice is a soft lamp, not a hammer. It invites you to name what you cannot yet bear to name. What if your longing for coherence is a signal that your inner map needs revision? Think of your identity as a sculpture in progress. Individuation is the slow chisel of time, not a rebellion against yourself, but a pilgrimage toward your more mature self. Let the old claim rest for a moment while you listen to the weather of your mind. The question you ask next could be the key. Ask, if this belief were provisional, what would I notice differently? Try it now. What would feel different if you held this belief with less certainty? Remember, you are not a problem to solve, but a reality unfolding. The best Socrates leaves you with a door you can walk through anytime you forget how to breathe. So, what question would you choose to hold gently in your palm for the next hour,